Hi, this is Professor Mochik with another one of my art talks. Today we're going to talk about Intaglio printmaking. Intaglio printmaking is when you take something like a piece of plexiglass or a piece of plastic plate, and of course, first and foremost, you always come up with an idea or a drawing. I've come up with a little drawing, and you want to make sure that it's a good drawing, that you're going to love living with it for a long time, because you can make multiples out of this drawing and this printmaking medium. Incised line intaglio has been around for a long time, and really when paper started being developed in about the 1400s, more readily available, you certainly were able to understand the process that printmaking started to play a role in society. So this is exciting. It's an old medium, but it's really a lot of fun. And you can do it at home. Thus, I have everything in front of me in my dining room, okay? Dining room studio. All right, so you get some plexiglass from, go to the hardware store, or you can get these actual plastic plates that you can buy at an art store. All right, and you pull the plastic protection off of them, and as I said, you come up with a drawing. All right, so I'm going to move that forward, and I have my drawing, and then the next thing you have to do is take that plexiglass plate, put it on top of the drawing, and you get an etching needle. That is very helpful, or you can use a nail or anything else with a sharp edge. There are other types of tools you can buy, scrapers, burnishers, when you get more sophisticated with printmaking, but you don't need all that fancy stuff. And don't forget, something like a wire brush can scratch and make a nice little texture on the surface, or maybe some steel wool in an area or so. So I've already scratched into my plexi plate, but I'm going to show you what it would be like if I didn't. I put it on top of my drawing and realize again that the print is going to be the reverse of the actual drawing you're looking at. It's in reverse. All right? So I'm going to go and I'm actually going to scrape lines in tracing my drawing. And then sometimes you've got to brush off the little bit of plexiglass that ends up in the edge, and you continue. You may want to tape it down so it doesn't move, and you go down and down. Farther apart the lines are, the lighter it may look. The closer together the lines are, the darker. This is a line medium, meaning you can't shade unless you use lines. Small, wide, far apart, close. So you work away and create this scratched in, incised line with a little bit of your strength on a piece of plastic. Okay, that's done. So now what do? We put away our tools. We don't need this anymore. We certainly need our plate. We need to print it on paper. But guess what though? We're going to have to get the ink in the lines of the plate. How do we do that? We take a little water-based Intaglio type ink that you purchase at the art store. I put a little bit down here, and honestly you could take anything, a rag, here's a little piece of cheesecloth, I kind of like using that, and you dip, I've got gloves on, into my ink. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to actually dirty up my plate. Clockwise, counterclockwise. I'm pushing it into the lines of the plate that I just finished scratching into the plexiglass plate. And you need to make sure you ink those lines well. You can't just, oh yeah, okay, it's done. No. Kind of like mowing a lawn, I always say, you've got to go up and down the rows. There we go. But you don't need, in some ways, as much ink as you think. Notice I have newspaper down. I also have a nice clear plastic tablecloth on top of my dining room table area. I'm going to go back and get a little more. I'd rather do that than have too much on my plate. There we go. I'm going to press some more into the lines. Having some fun already. I'm going to take the newspaper that I've put here and hold the edge so I don't get the other hand that's gloved full of ink. I try to stay neat. You know, printmakers, people think it's just a mess. No, we're pretty neat people. All right, so here we go. I've inked it, I think, pretty thoroughly. And now you really don't want to have the ink on the surface anymore. You want to get rid of it. Well, how do you get rid of that? Sometimes a person will take a spatula like this or a piece of cardstock and they'll just lightly go off and take some of the excess ink off the top. Not too hard though, you don't want to scratch lines into that plate. And I'm holding it here a little bit. Okay, so I took some of the excess off. There wasn't a lot of excess. Now, because I took my paper, I'm going to fold it up and I've got a clean surface again. See how I work? Now I've got to get the ink off the surface. What on earth am I going to do? A couple of things. You can continue with cheesecloth like this or something fancy called tarlatan, but you don't have that around the house, so here's some cheesecloth you use if you're cooking or putting herbs in something. Try some of this if you have, and you just notice I'm not crunching it up. It's kind of like a little powder puff. And I'm wipe. Notice I'm keeping the plate flat. I'm not cleaning the lines below the surface, only the surface. Wipe. Oh, that's wiping rather nice. Not much. Okay, so I put that off to the side, but I'm not going to get it stuck in there. Then, aha, the good old telephone book. We're not having telephone books a lot anymore. So maybe you had an almanac from last year. That's a good thing you can get rid of. Newspapers, okay? That works great too. Again, I'll take that. I'm not crunching it up. This isn't about cleaning the lines. It's about cleaning the surface of the plate. And when you get a little more experience, you can start doing this kind of thing. But notice, if somebody were to grab the paper from me, they'd be able to pull it right away. It's not about how strong I am. I want that ink to stay in the lines. And you know, you're starting to see that. It is in the lines. Oop, what's that? Awesome. Some schmutz on the back. We've got to clean that off. So I'll just put this down. I'll go flat down. You say, isn't that going to hurt things? No, it really isn't. I'll throw that piece of paper away. Go take my paper towel, and I'll clean the back of my plate. I don't want all that dirt on the back. I want it to be nice and clean so I know how did I wipe the lines on the plate. All right, I'm just about ready to go. I love this. It's pretty fast. This is water-based ink, by the way, don't forget. And I see a little blob there. I have to remember something. Take your rag or so, don't go crazy, but let's clean those edges of that plate. We don't want smears, do we? But we got to be careful. Just grab the edges. I don't want those to make big blobs when I spoon rub it. All right? There we go. Take those edges, clean those. Okay, and then just to make sure everything's nice in the line, I'm going to go again lightly. And I'm seeing one area there that I know has got a little bit of blob on it. Okay. There you go. You get a little handy at doing this, and if you don't feel comfortable, keep it on the ground here, or on, the table surface, so that you're not holding it midair. Okay, I'm pretty much ready to print this baby. Whoa. I realize that my setup here that I'm showing you is not really the right measurement size for the plate, but I'm going to eyeball it, and here's what I'm talking about. I'm going to now go right on top of this area, take my little registration system, everything's clean here, I'm going to pop this right in the middle. Okay, oops, I can, because it's Intaglio, actually move this plate a little bit. Be careful, I don't want to have any dirt around the edges, any ink spill out. Okay, that's on the back side, don't worry. And I've pre-marked where paper will go. I'm using a larger paper. Notice I've already always pre-marked where plates go too, but I didn't pre-mark this size. That's okay. You can wing it, you put her in there. Okay, I'm going to take my gloves off here because now I don't want ink anywhere around me. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take, I have some water in the pan that I normally roast vegetables or chicken in, because you know, you're at home, right? And here I go. I'm going to, with clean hands now, I took the gloves off, I'm going to put it on top of a nice stack of dish towels, right? You've all got dish towels. Then I'm going to take another dish towel and put it right on top. And I'm going to blot that paper. All right, if you got a rolling pin or something, grandma's rolling pin or whatever around, that helps too. I'm trying to blot. Why did we dampen the paper? Well, the paper's got to get below the surface in the lines. You have to buy special printmaking paper for this. I'm sorry. You could print dry paper, and it still works. Not as nicely. You have to get special printmaking paper that can handle water. Any art store, all right? And it doesn't have to be expensive. So here I am, dampened paper now, or you could spray bottle dampen it. You don't have to get as fancy as this, but this works pretty fast and easy to me. I like this method. Notice now how the paper's been soaking about 10 minutes. Every paper you get, and this is called domestic etch. It's a less expensive paper, but it's archival. And it doesn't have to soak very long. You don't have to leave it in for more than maybe 15 minutes, okay? So I look at it, looking good. Wow, now I'm going to put this down And I'm going to match up on my corners here. If I'm a little crooked, it's okay. You try to be as even as you can. Put it down. Whew. Now what? Now we want to somehow rub the surface and make sure that we get a print from what's below. Many times this printmaking is done on a press. You don't have a press at home. Let's do it by hand. Well, you can't just start rubbing the back of the paper, because if you do, it's going to start tearing. So we have to do something like grab a piece of plastic. I cut up some garbage bags. That's an easy thing to do. Maybe wax paper would work. You know, be creative and think. So this protects the back side of the paper so you're not shredding it apart when you're rubbing it. Grab a wooden spoon. Sometimes you can buy plastic rubbing spoons. And, you know, now I've got to make sure I know where the plate is. I don't want things to move. And I'm going to hold my plate in place. And I'm going back and forth again. Not missing an area and using some actual strength from my forearm. Rub, rub, rub. Yes, you can run it through a printing press and oh, a beautiful print comes out. But people like Mary Cassatt have used this, famous artist, Rembrandt. Rembrandt loved Drypoint. Why? Because he could take a plate, put some lines in it, make a print, take a look at it, and then add more lines and make another print. Develop imagery. So the first time you proof this doesn't have to be the perfect print. You may realize you've got to go in and add more lines. But you can make variations, one of a kinds, or you can do a nice addition, meaning a multiple, the same plate printed numerous times. Maybe you want to make 10 of them. You want to sell a few, give one to grandma, give one to the neighbor, blah, blah. Keep one, who knows? So it has that potential. When they dry too, you can always hand color one of these prints and turn it into a one-of-a-kind, what's called a mono print. The plate can be reproduced, but the coloring you do, it could be colored pencil once it's dry, watercolor, who knows? It's a delightful process. It shows line work well. It's a delight for people who love to draw. It doesn't have to be realism. I chose my theme that I love, which is more urban imagery. Water towers, buildings, and such. It takes time to spoon rub a print, people. You've got to be patient. Ooh, you can peek though, can't you? Yeah, you can. Let's take a little peek. Is anything happening? I'm nervous. Hey, it's happening! I'm so excited. Okay. Oh, the heart starts pounding. It's so exciting. Oh my gosh, the key. Cleaning that surface off and also making sure you used pre-soaked paper. Take off my plastic. Let's pull the print and see what we have. Hey, it's a Drypoint plate. A simple drawing turned into a plexiglass plate, and this has potential either to continue printing it like this, or maybe you want to add some lines or such. I can see that perhaps I wiped a little too much here from my plate. I happen to have some other prints of it, like any good show would have. As you can see, that's a little more of a showing the line work, but guess what? That was printed by a press. All right? Maybe you want to develop the print and add more lines to it. Okay? There's a lot of things you can do. But in fact, that's a great medium. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you try it at home. Don't forget now, if you want to print this again, all you have to do is re-ink it and go through the process of what I showed you. You don't have to clean it up in between. However, at the end of your time, you need to lift this up, clean this surface. Since it's water-based ink, very easy. And you know what? You can literally simply, here's a little bit liquid detergent, soap, and you can literally go back to your water bin and clean everything up that way. And basically, this is non-toxic ink, and it goes down your drain like anything, and very easy like watercolors to clean up. And you will see a little stain and residue, but don't worry. So that's Intaglio printmaking. It's simple, it's sophisticated looking, and you're one with Rembrandt. What can I say? Enjoy, try it yourself.